Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah. Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah. Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wassalamun ala ibadihi alladhina astafa. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad النبي الأمي وعلى آله وسلم تسليما اللهم صل على محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وسلم تسليما اللهم علمنا الكتاب والحكمة وفقهنا في الدين اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا واسعا وشفاء من كل داء اللهم آت أنفسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن سهلا إذا شئت اللهم التف بنا في تيسير كل يسير فإن تيسير كل أسير عليك يسير ونسألك اليسر والمعافاة في الدنيا والآخرة اللهم طهر قلوبنا من النفاق وأعمالنا من الرياء أما بعد. There are two classes of people. One class is known as that of the majzub, and the other we know them as the salik. What's the difference between the two? The majzubs are such persons whose anwar, the nur, precede their adhkar. The nur comes before zikr. Nur is before zikr. As for the majzub, nur and then zikr. On the contrary, the saliks are those whose adhkar precede their anwar. The saliks are those who do zikr first. They do zikr and then the nur, then the anwar comes. It's vice versa, the opposite. Although there are these two groups, there's a third group. There's another group whose adhkar and anwar, whose dhikr and whose nur are simultaneous. And there's a fourth group. There's also a group without adhkar and without anwar. A group without dhikr, no nur. Na'udhu billah min dhalik. Na'udhu billah min dhalik. Ameen. The one engaged in dhikr, Allahu Allah, La ilaha illallah, illallah, Allah, Allah. The one engaged in dhikr to illuminate his heart and to become a dhakir. He is the salik. The majzub, the other one's heart became illumined. It became illumined. Hence, he became a dhakir. So the majzub, nur is first and then dhikr. With the salik, dhikr and then nur. The third one, whose anwar and adhkar are equal, both are equal. Dhikr and the nur, they are both equal in such people. The third one seeks guidance. He seeks guidance from his dhikr and he follows the nur of his heart because he has both of them. So he's on the path, but he seeks guidance from his dhikr. Hidayat, the guidance, comes from his zikr, and he follows the nur of his heart. The definitions of salik and majzub have already been presented earlier. Here, further explanation of these two groups as well as of another two groups is given. The wusul, in this terminology, wusul from the verb wasala, wusul means arrival, attainment of divine proximity, attainment of qurb ilahi is called wusul. The wusul of the majzub is by the inspiration of nur into his heart. From the very beginning, Allah puts it there. Allah pulls him from the very beginning by putting this nur into his heart. Because the word jazaba means to pull, to draw. So by virtue of this inspired nur, he gains divine proximity. He gains this qurb ilahi, and he acquires the station, the maqam of mushahada. So he starts with the top, from the very top he starts, subhanallah. Thereafter, afterwards, he commences his journey towards the divine attributes. He commences his journey, his sojourn towards the divine attributes, the sifat of Allah, and then to the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the makhluk. So his journey is from top and he's coming down as the majzub. Majzubs are such persons whose hearts are illumined with anwar even before they engage in zikr. Even before they engage, the majzub have this dhikr in their hearts. They do not first engage in zikr and shughul like the salik, no. From the very inception, Allah Ta'ala illumines their hearts and He guides them. And Allah mentions this in the Quran. يَجْتَبِي إِلَيْهِ مَن يَشَاءُ وَيَهْدِي إِلَيْهِ مَنْ أَنَابَ. From the very inception, Allah Ta'ala illumines their hearts and He guides them. After being illumined, they now engage in dhikr. And now this dhikr is not an onerous task for them. It's not hard for them, for the majzub. It is their state. Zikr is a state for them. It's a hal for them. Just as breathing is. This is about the majzub, and then they come down into the divine attributes, the names, the sifat, and then onto the creation and the created objects. It's a journey from upwards down. The salikeen on the other hand, what do? They first engage in dhikr and shughul they have to adopt mujahada, effort, striving, riyadat, exercises. They have to engage in that. They undergo difficulties in these exercises. The salikeen. And after these efforts of toil and love, then their hearts become illumined. The nur of yaqeen then enters their hearts and they attain wusul ilallah, divine proximity. Thus the salikeen are those persons whose adhkar precede their anwar. The salikeen are those whose zikr precede their nur. So that's these two groups, salikeen and the majzub. There are also such persons whose anwar and adhkar, the dhikr and the nur are simultaneous. The anwar illumine their hearts the very moment they engage in dhikr. As soon as they start the dhikr, the anwar also starts because it is simultaneous. These anwar draw them to Allah Ta'ala. The suluk and the jazb. Suluk and jazb. Suluk, of course, is the spiritual journey requiring effort. That is suluk. It's a spiritual journey requiring effort. And from that we get the salik. Suluk and jazb. Jazb is what? It's a magnetic attraction towards Allah. Like how magnet attracts a metal. It's a magnetic attraction towards Allah, that Allah puts the nur first and pulls these people. So the suluk and the jazb of these persons progress simultaneously. When a person has both jazb in him and he has suluk in him, he's both a salik, he's both a majzub. In other words, they have anwar and they have adhkar simultaneous together. Nur and dhikr as a third category. So the suluk, the spiritual journey requiring effort, it goes on to. And the jazb, magnetic attraction towards Allah, of these persons progress ma'an, together, simultaneously. There is another group of people who are bereft of adhkar and anwar. They have no zikr and they have no nur. This group, this fourth group, does not obey Allah Ta'ala, nor do their hearts incline towards obedience and worship, and we seek Allah's protection, ma'adallah. So the salik does dhikr. And what's the purpose of the dhikr of the salik? He starts with zikr. The purpose of the salik's dhikr is to achieve illumination. He wants to get illumination of the qalb, of the heart. Hence, dhikr is first. And after dhikr follows the rays of spiritual illumination. After zikr follows the anwar. However, in the case of the majzub, this is being thoroughly explained here. In the case of the majzub, his heart becomes illumined from the very beginning. Yajtabi ilayhi may yasha. Allah pulls him from the very beginning, puts that nur. As a result of this nur, he is drawn to Allah like a magnet is drawn to a metal, and he becomes a dhakir without any effort, just like breathing it is. Whereas the salik initially encounters difficulty. At the beginning stages, the salik will find some difficulty. He has to struggle. He has to make effort in establishing the dhikr. But for the majzub, the zikr is like breathing. That is his stage. So, but the third group, those in whom suluk and jazb exist simultaneously, in them prevail dhikr and nur at the same time. Wow, what a group. In them prevail nur and zikr at the same time. By means of their dhikr, they attain the road to Allah. So by means of the dhikr, the tariq becomes path. Sirat al-Mustaqeen. By means of the zikr, they attain the road to Allah Ta'ala, because their hearts are imbued with nur basirat. The light of spiritual wisdom is in their hearts, so they attain the road. The road is therefore clear ahead of them. The road is clear ahead of them, and they have the nur in their hearts. They follow the nur of their heart and travel along the path indicated by the nur of their hearts. The state of this third group is vastly different from the former two groups, Salikin and Majzubin. Initially, the Salik, he is bereft of nur, doesn't have any nur. He engages in only zikr lisani, verbal zikr, or zikr qalbi, zikr of the heart. But he is bereft of nur. But he says it, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. So it's zikr lisani, zikr by the tongue, or qalbi zikri. As for the salik in the beginning, although he too walks along the road, yes, the salik is also walking along the road, but the salik is like a traveler. He's like a traveler in the darkness of the night without a lamp, but he's walking the road. But he's like a traveler in the darkness of the night without a lamp. When does he get this lamp then? When does he get this nur? He obtains a lamp after traversing the path, attaining divine absorption, jazab, and ultimately nur-e basirat. Thereafter, he follows the direction indicated by the nur of his heart. So that's the example and likeness and the mathal of a salik. He's walking along the path, but he's like a traveler in the darkness. At the end of his journey, he gets this lamp, he gets this nur, and then afterwards he follows the direction indicated by the nur of his heart. The majzub, whose jadab is prior, he is like a traveler on the path also, but he's like a traveler who sees a light in the distance. He's like a traveler who sees a light in the distance. Although he is unable to see the road, but he's seeing the light in the distance. However, he fixes the light as his beacon, and he walks ahead, ultimately reaching his destination. For the third group, the one whose jazab and suluk are simultaneous is like a traveler who has a lamp. Yes, so he is like a traveler. So the salik is like one traveling in the night on the road without a lamp. Lamp is granted at the end. The majzub is like one traveling on the road. He sees the light in the distance. Although the road is dark, but he sees it at a distance. And the third group, when the jazab and the suluk are simultaneous, is like a traveler who has a lamp, and in the light of the lamp, He discerns the road ahead and he walks on. He goes on. He goes on. He moves on and on, guided by the nur and the illumination of the lamp. The Shaykh alayhi rahmah says, with his manifestation and the existence of his creation, he guides towards the existence of his names. That is, speaking about Allah. With his manifestation, his zuhur, and with the existence of his creation that we see all around, he guides towards the existence of his names. That there is a name called Rahman, Rahim, Alim, Al-Basir. He guides towards the wujud and the existence of these names. With the existence of his names, when a person then knows that, subhanallah, there is Alim, there is Al-Qadir, Al-Muqtadir, Al-Basir, with the existence, the wujud of his names, he guides towards his attributes of excellence, towards the sifat and the qualities. So he knows that Allah's name, he becomes aware of Al-Qadir. Then afterwards he guides him towards the sifat and the attribute of that name, which is Qudrat, Taqat and power. So he guides then towards his attributes of excellence. And with his attributes now, you now become aware of what is real Qudrat of Allah, of his basarat, of his basar, of his sama', power of hearing, his ilm, his hikmat. He guides towards with this, so that he guides towards his attributes, sifat, and with his attributes now, the sifat, he guides towards his perfect being, that is his dhat. His dhat, dhati kamila, known as the perfect being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the presence of the attributes independently is not possible. They must be connected. These cannot exist by themselves. These attributes cannot independently exist. The presence of these sifat, attributes, independently, gair mumkin. Thus, the dhat, the divine being of Allah, the divine being, is first revealed to the majzubin, because they are pulled. So that is first revealed to the majzubin, and they see that light in the distance, and they are walking in the darkness, but they're using that light as a beacon. Thereafter, the majzubs are diverted to the mushahada of the sifat, the attributes. Then they are turned towards the relationship of the divine names, Ar-Rahman, Kareem. And finally, they are brought back. They are brought back to his manifestations, the manifestations of Allah. Mazhari lutfihi, mazhari hikmatihi, mazhari qudratihi. And they are brought back to Allah's creations. So it's from journey from up, from top, coming down. The affair of the salikin is the opposite. And the reason why the Shaykh is speaking about the both, because both exist. The affair of the salikin is the opposite. Thus, the end of the salikin's sojourn, his safar, the end of the salik's safar and journey is the beginning of the road of the majzubin, because they are stood as opposite parts. Whereas the beginning of the road of the salikin is the end of the road of the Majzub. However, on more occasions than one, they meet, because one is coming down, one is going up. So they meet at some point. On more than one occasion, do the Salik and the Majzub cross paths. They cross paths. It's like the angels of the night that come down and the angels of the day that are going up. They meet. They meet at the time of Asr. They meet at the time of Fajr. So too the Majzub and the Salik meet on more than one occasion. The Salik on his way up, which is called Uruj, and the Majzub on his way down, which is called Nuzul. To explain this, Maulana says, the sun, the earth, the moon, the stars, and the entire magnificent creation, what do they indicate? They indicate that the creator of these objects is mighty. We look at the sun. The more you know about the sun, the earth, the moon, the stars, magnificent creation indicate that the creator of these objects is indeed mighty and powerful, knowledgeable, majestic, wise, and a being who wills. And he, such a being who wills, masha'Allahu kana, by contemplating on all these wonders. So a person begins to do tafakkur. By contemplating on all these wonders, we are guided to the divine names. يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. So he goes into tafakkur, meditation, muraqabah, contemplation, contemplating on these great wonders of the heavens and the earth. We are guided to what? We are guided to the divine names of Allah, to Allah's 99 names. Al-Basir, Al-Alim, Al-Hakim, Al-Wadud, Al-Qadir, Al-Khaliq. We realize that the being who created these wonders, we realize now that he is really Qadir. So we get to his name. Through these wonders, subhanallah, we realize that the being who created these wonders is Qadir, powerful. He is Alim, one of knowledge. He is Hakim, wise. He is Murid, from Arada, that is the one who wills, Al-Murid, etc. So recognition comes in of the names. In other words, the wujud and the existence of the names come in. Now the recognition of these names, Al-Wadud, As-Sami, Al-Basir, Al-Hakim, Al-Rahim, Al-Rahman, recognition of these names leads us to the conclusion that he is a being then with sifat. If he has these names, now he has sifat, attributes. He is a being with sifat, attributes of excellence, as-sifatul kamaliya. When he is Qadir, Alim and Hakim, then logically he possesses the attributes of Qadir, Qudrat, power. If he is Alim, he possesses the attribute of Ilm. If he is Hakim, then that of Hikmah, wisdom. The recognition of these attributes now, Qudrat, Hikmat, Ilm, leads us to the conclusion that he is the being par excellence. He is the being par excellence. So what the Salik does, he starts from the bottom and he goes on top. He is the being par excellence. The sifat, and what goes on now? The sifat, the attributes, without the Zat, without the being, are not possible. Hence, the necessary natija and conclusion is the existence of the Zat, the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the state of the Salikin. This is the hall, the state of the Salikin who progress from creation to creator. That's how it happens. They go from creation to creator. The gaze of the Salikin first focuses on created objects. That's how the Salik starts. He starts seeing created objects. The sun, the moon, the stars, the oceans, the trees, mountains, birds, bees. The gaze of the Salikin first focuses on created objects. Then what? This initiates in their hearts the process of logical deduction. Seeing the tree, moon, sun, stars, skies, oceans. It initiates the process of logical deduction. Allah Ta'ala fixes their gaze on the names as long as He desires. So from that, they recognize As-Sami, Al-Hakim, Al-Qadir, Al-Alim, and He keeps them on the names. As long as He desires, they are on the names, on the wujud of the names. They then become absorbed in the journey of the names. So it's a journey in the names of Allah. Rahman, Rahim, Al-Alim, As-Sami, Al-Basir, Al-Khaliq. It's a journey through the names. Again resorting to the process of logical deduction by which they are guided now to the divine attributes. Divine attributes, that if He is Qadir, then it's a journey now through the attributes, through Allah's Qudrat. They go now to the attributes, Qudrat, Ilm, Hikmat. Applying the process of logic to the attributes, that here these attributes can't exist by themselves. They ultimately reach the divine That, because these attributes are connected to the That of Allah, and they reach the That. That's the process of the journey of the Salik, from bottom to top. On the other hand, the people of Jazab, the Majzubin. Majzubs are very common. Maybe there are some of them in Trinidad, but they are very common in the East. Very common in the East, in India and Pakistan. To some extent also in the Middle East, but I have seen plenty of them in India and Pakistan, the Majzubs. On the other hand, the people of Jazb, the Majzubin, they attain the revelation of the Holy Zat. From the very inception, they attain that revelation of the Holy Zat. Because it's like, they are like traveling and they have seen that light and they use this light as a beacon to continue their journey. So it was revealed from the very beginning. And if you see that, it's going to be very easy, all your zikr, everything, because you're seeing the light. As well as the Salik is traveling in darkness without a light, and the light is achieved at the end of the journey. As a result of their inherent propensity, they perceive the divine sifat. Then, with their spiritual eyes, with their basirat, they recognize the relationship between the sifat and the That. Yeah, because they're moving very fast. They recognize the relationship between the sifat, the qualities, the attributes, and the That they have to be together. They then turn towards the remember they are coming from top now, downwards. This is nuzul for this majzub, nuzul. For the salikin it is uruj, climbing up. So, let's start from the beginning The Majzub attain revelation of the Holy That from the very inception. As a result of their inherent propensity, they perceive the Sifat. After Sifat, when they spiritualize, they recognize the relationship between Sifat and the That of Allah, the being. They then turn towards the relationship of the divine names with creation. Khaliq, Basir, Alim. This state, this hal, is followed by their perception of the manifestation of the names of Allah. What does it mean of perception of the manifestation of the names of Allah? Mazhari lutfihi, mazhari khalqihi. That is their perception of creation. That is the effects of creation. That is Allah's madhhar. That's how He manifests Himself, His power. The effects of creation are related to the divine names. So they see creation, but they relate the creation to the divine names. They come together now. So the Majzub has come back down to the creation. Nuzul, he has descended, come back down to creation. But this is their perception of the manifestation of the names. They understand Khaliq, they understand Khaliqiyat, they understand the power of Khalq. They are connected to Allah. They go into the names Khaliq, and then they connect these names now with the madhhar, that place of manifestation of the name of Allah, which is in reality the effects of creation are related to the divine names. As mentioned earlier, the salik state of progress is in the opposite direction. Thus the end, the muntaha was the end, the divine that of Allah, of the salik's sojourn, that is his end. Salik's, the end of the journey of the salik is Allah's that. This is the beginning of the majzub, the ibtida of the majzub. So where the salik ends is the ibtida and the beginning of the majzub on his way downwards. And the beginning of the salik's journey, namely the perception of creation, the beginning of the salik's journey. Let's look at the other side now, vice versa. The salik, the beginning of his journey, namely the perception of creation. Perception of creation is the end of the majzub's creation. So the salik started from creation and went up to the that. The majzub started from the that and came down to creation. But you know what? However, there's a great difference between the two. Because remember, the salik started with creation. That's his starting, and that's the end of the what? Majzub, isn't it? But there's a big difference still. Although outwardly, basically, it's the same, that his beginning is the end of the Majzub, yet there's a difference. There's a great difference between the two. It does not mean that the beginning of the Majzubin is the exact end of the Salikin without any difference. It does not mean that the beginning of the Majzubin is the exact end of the Salikin. No, it's kind of like that, but there's a little difference. It doesn't mean that without any difference. There is some difference. In attaining their goal, that is namely true, Zati Muqaddasa, in attaining their goal, their maqsad, which is what? Zati Muqaddasa, the holy being of Allah. The Salikin have to traverse all the states. They have to traverse all the states to attain their maqsad. which is Zati Muqaddasa, the pure being of Allah. They have to traverse all the states and pass through all the valleys of the nafs. Wow. So it's some difficulty, it's some effort, it's some struggle. They traverse all the states and they pass through all the valleys of the nafs. Only after considerable toil and struggle do they attain their goal, which is Zati Muqaddasa, the Zat of Allah. Thus, although they acquire the jazab on attaining the goal, it is tempered with a degree of alertness. That's the difference. Because the majzub started from there. And that's where this salik is going to end. But there's a difference still, isn't it? Thus, although they acquire the jazab now, after going through all the valleys of the nafs and traversing all the states, they acquire the jazab, the absorption on attaining the goal. But it is tempered with a degree of alertness, very alert. It is accompanied by perfect obedience and firmness. Perfect obedience and firmness. Because in that state of the majzub, it may not be accompanied by perfect obedience and firmness. And there is not that alertness present there when they started. Oh yeah, they saw the light, everything. So that's where they started. And that's where the salik is going to end. But the end result of the salik is different. Although it's the same, but there's a difference. Because their difference is that there's alertness. When they have reached there, very alert. And it is accompanied by perfect obedience and firmness. On the contrary, although the beginning of the majzubin is Zati Kamila, we understand that. Although that was the beginning of the majzub, Zati Kamila, the perfect being Allah, but they are completely unaware of the road. So there's a difference. There's a difference with the beginning of the majzub and the what? End of the salik. The salik is what? More alert. And that alertness is accompanied with strict obedience. Although the beginning of the majzub, yes, is Zati Kamila, which the salik have now reached. But you know what? They are completely unaware of the road. Because it's like a light in the darkness, and using that as a beacon, and they are going on. They are completely unaware of the road. They have no awareness of the tricks and the traps of the nafs. They don't know that. But his sadiq passed through all that. So the sadiq is aware and he's very alert now coming to the end here. The majzub started there, but he doesn't have that alertness. He doesn't have that strict obedience. Alright? They are completely unaware of the road. They have no awareness of the tricks and the traps of the nafs. It is for this reason that they lack firmness on the Sharia. You will see them lacking firmness on the Sharia. When you look at them, they're not too mentally right. They seem to be a bit pagal, mad. They're not mentally right. But they are mad in the love of Allah. It's because that nur has dominated them and they are burnt by it. So they're not aware too much of what's going wrong. It is for this reason, because they have no awareness of the tricks and the traps of the nafs, they will what? Fall into the tricks and the traps of the nafs. It's for this reason that they lack firmness on the Sharia. In fact, sometimes they perpetrate such acts which are repugnant in terms of the Sharia. Sometimes they perpetrate such acts which are repugnant in the terms of the Sharia. I remember back in Bangalore, one of our teachers had told us a story of a majzub, all right, that he was walking around naked And when the alim of the district called him and said, you need to cover yourself. What's wrong with you? He says, you know anything? What do you know? You know anything? He says, I am only displaying the alif of Allah. That is the alif of Allah. So the alim said, bring a whip. He says, crack him a few whip. He says, do not lie. The alif of Allah doesn't have 2 dots, doesn't have 2 nuktas. So, that's not just a joke, it was a true story. So, sometimes they perpetrate such acts which are repugnant in terms of the Sharia. Sometimes they are not strict on the Sharia. Sometimes they have fallen down into some ditch, into some pit. They even neglect farz. Sometimes they even neglect farz. And wajib acts. Sometimes neglecting farz and neglecting wajib act. Once in a masjid in Bangalore, I saw a majzoom perform 3 rakats of witr. I never saw witr perform that way yet. He came, he performed one rakat on one side. And then after 1 rakat, he get up, he go on the next lane, he perform 2nd rakat there. After he go on a 3rd lane, perform the 3rd rakat over there. And then before sajda, he do something like this. Throw it and then he go on for sajda. Say, wow, that's witr. That is a witr there. So sometimes they even neglect the farz and the wajib acts sometimes. We have to know the difference between pagal. Sometimes some people mad, you really have mad people. One is mad, majnoon, pagal, and one is a majzood. There's a difference. But they are not liable, despite all of this, they are not liable for punishment. Not liable for punishment. Because the observance of the laws and the Sharia depends upon what? Aql and intelligence. And right now that is lacking. Since the Anwar and the Noor, that is Ghalib. There's Ghalaba, that is Ghalib. Since the Anwar have overwhelmed their Aql and intelligence, their senses are overpowered. Their senses are overpowered by the Anwar. They therefore lack the ability of discernment. So if you had a choice to be a Majzoom or a Salik, which one you prefer? To get the Anwar first? Because you get the Noor first, And then you journey downwards. But when you come down to the end, it's at the end result, mashallah, is still what? Basically the same. But the points have a little bit of difference in them. Which one you prefer to be, a Majzoom or a Salik? A Salik? We had to work hard for that, The Majzoom does get right from the beginning, Prefer Salik? So both exist, and the ayah tells us, يَجْتَبِي إِلَيْهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَهْدِي إِلَيْهِ مَنْ أَنَابَ. Isn't it? Similarly, the beginning of the Salikin, so just as we said, it doesn't mean that the beginning of the Majzoom, which is Zat-e Ilahi, beginning of the Majzoom, is the exact end of the Salik. There's a little what? There's a big difference over there. Likewise, that we come along now. Similarly, the beginning, the Ibtida of the Salikin, where they started from? Creation. The Ibtida of the Salikin is not the end, the Muntaha of the Majzubin with exactitude. There's a big difference also. There is substantial difference. Although the gaze of the Salikin in the beginning is on the object of creation, isn't it? They're watching the sun, the moon, the stars, the earth, the seas, the rivers. Their gaze is what? On the object of creation. Remember, they're now starting. Remember the Majzub coming back down on creation? But there's a difference. So although the gaze of the Salikin in the beginning is on the object of creation, they do not perceive the names and the Zat. At this stage in the beginning, all they see is the makhluk, they're pondering, but they have not perceived the names and the Zat. They have not gone into the wujud of the names and then the attributes, because that comes on later on. And although the end of the Majzubin is also the same what? Created objects. They do. When I read this paragraph, I see that not here seems to be a mistake, and because that's the only way the paragraph could make sense. Allahu Alam. Although the end of the Majzubin is the created objects, yeah, but they do recognize these as manifestation of the names of Allah. They do. So then you get a difference. So the Salikin started with the object of creation, but without what? Without ilm, without awareness, without wujud of the names of Allah, without traveling into the sifat, without connecting now the sifat to the Zat. There was only on the Majzubin has come down also to the created objects. But it seems to be the same point, created objects, but there's a difference. Because although the end of the Majzubin is the created objects also, they do recognize these as the manifestation of the names of Allah, as His mazhar, as the effects of the what? Names of Allah, the effects of the names of Allah, the effects of His qudrat. They see that. And then that makes sense. So although the beginning and the end seems to be the same, but there's a bit of a difference. Because after all that, and you come down there, and you come back to created objects, and you're deprived of that, then your journey didn't make any what? Sense, isn't it? So they came from a lot of hosh, a lot of what? A lot of josh and zeal, back to what? Hosh, the sense. But now when they, so the end result of the Majzub, when they come down to created objects, but they see them and recognize them as the manifestation, the zuhur or mazhar of His names. The Salik started there, but they didn't recognize that in the beginning. That's the difference. The Salikin progress. Let's talk about the Saliks, because you prefer to be a Salik or a Majzub. Salik? Now it's Thursday time, Du'a is a very sacred day. On every Monday and Thursday, the Prophet ﷺ told us that our deeds go up to the heavens. That's why he loved to fast on a Monday and a Thursday, because these 2 days, our deeds go up every day and everywhere, but today, a special presentation. And now, at Asr time, deeds are going up, angels are coming down, Asr is blessed, du'as, it's a chance of du'as being greatly accepted. Where you want to be? Majzub or Salik? He says Salik. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ij'alna min al-wasilina ila al-ayn duna as-sami'ina lil-athar. Allahumma arshidna tariqa as-sayri fik. Allahumma ij'alna min awliyaika alladhina la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. Al-muqlisina al-muqlasina al-wasilina ila al-ayn duna as-sami'ina lil-athar. The Salikin progress, they progress by means of zikr. And when they start, the zikr was just in the what? Tongue, qalbi zikr, or what? Either lisani zikr, or what? Qalbi zikr. So they progress by means of their zikr, their shughl, their occupation in devotional acts, ibadat, and righteous deeds, amal salihah. Their way, the way of the Salik is called fana. So they journey and journey and journey until they reach the state of fana. Fana is annihilation, where their nafs becomes totally what? Annihilated and destroyed, meaning the shahawat of it, and the nafs submits and surrenders. So their way is fana. That is what is called al-fana. Gradually, the attributes of the nafs and the nafs as well, the sifat of the nafs and even the nafs as well, are annihilated, gone. Along with fana, they attain baqa. So first is what? Fana. Along with this fana, with this annihilation, they attain baqa, which is known as al-baqa billah. Al-baqa billah, which means to endure and to remain with Allah. Endurance, al-baqa billah, endurance with the divine Dhat and Sifat. That's the term al-baqa billah. So they get fana, and along with this fana, they attain al-baqa billah, endurance, remaining with the divine Dhat and Sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The attributes of the nafs, as well as the nafs itself, and the majzubin are annihilated in the very beginning. Remember, it's the opposite journey to two of them. They are therefore brought down. They are therefore brought down. So like their way is called baqa. So the way of the salik is first fana. Fana is accompanied by baqa. They started with what? Fana. Because the attributes of the nafs and the nafs of the majzub were annihilated in the very beginning. They started with fana. They are coming down. So they are therefore brought down, and their way is al-baqa. The more they travel in the spiritual realm, the more they come towards alertness. So it's not that they remain like that forever. Then the more they travel down in the spiritual realm, the more they come towards alertness. More alert as they travel in the spiritual realm. More they come towards alertness. Hence, sometimes the salik, in his onward progress from the creation to creator, he meets the majzub on his downward journey from creator to creation, and they meet at some point. Sometimes they meet in the tajalli of the divine names. They might meet in the wujud. They meet on that point of what? The tajalli of the divine names of Allah, Rahman, Rahim. That is, both are illumined by the radiance of the divine names, and they meet at that point in coming down and in going up. But the salik advances. The salik advances by journeying now in the divine attributes, sifat, and then finally what? That. While the majzub descends into the mushahada of created objects. But even when he sees the created objects, is what? He sees Allah with it. He sees it as being his manifestations of his power. He sees it. Like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu used to say, "Ma ra'aytu shay'an qattu illa ra'aytullah ma'ahu." I never saw anything except that I saw Allah with it. Sometimes the two of them, majzub and salik, meet in the station of the tajalli of the divine attributes. Sometimes not in the names, but sometimes they meet in what? Sifat, attributes. And the same process of ascent and descent transpires. In conclusion, the salik is superior to the majzub. So you made the right choice. The salik is superior to the majzub. People derive benefit from the salik. On the contrary, the majzub cannot benefit people as long as he remains in a state of jadab, divine absorption. The majzub cannot be a sheikh to guide others. However, on the termination of his nuzul and descent, when it ends, he becomes capable of being a sheikh on condition that he is not dominated by jadab again. He's alert now. He's not dominated. He's not maglub by what? Jadab. In the same way, as long as the salik, he is ascending, as long as the salik does not attain the stage of mushahadatul haqq, and tajalli, he does not possess the ability of mashiqa, the office of a sheikh. We will stop here, inshallah. and continue next week, inshallah.
Social expectation drowns us all inside. What you have should be what I want, 'cause what I have just ain't alright. The clothes I wear, the way I comb my hair, how I live, oh I don't care. This is who I am, this is me.